Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the special meeting number 1 of 2025. I want to commence by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet, the Butchulla people, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I'll move now that, given that I'm teamsing in, that the Deputy Mayor chair the meeting. Is there a seconder for that?
Mr Mayor, we don't need a seconder. The standing orders provide that the Deputy Mayor can chair the meeting if you indicate that you're unavailable to chair.
Thanks. Yeah, we discussed it last time. We thought it was better to have a resolution in the minutes. That's seconded, Councillor Paul Truscott. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously.
All right, thank you, Mr Mayor. So moving on, the first item is the apologies and leave of absence. So the motion is that Council 1 approve a leave of absence for Councillor Michelle Byrne and Councillor Phil Truscott for the 16th of April 2025, and 2, note that Councillor Michelle Byrne and Councillor Phil Truscott will not be in attendance at the 16th of April 2025 special meeting. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Sanderson. Is there a seconder? Councillor Cosgrove. All those in favour? Opposed? That's carried unanimous. And Councillor Chapman has arrived 9:01. Okay, so next is disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest for this special meeting? No? If you happen to think of one, let us know. Otherwise, then the next item of business is the item special 3.1, Amendment Package 1 Fraser Coast Planning Scheme. Councillor Cosgrove, do you wish to move your alternative?
I do, thank you, Mr Chair.
Sorry.
Yeah, I do. Okay.
And then, do we need to say what it is, Ken, or do we just go straight to a second?
Yeah, if he wants to move an alternative motion, he should say what the motion is, or the changes to the officer's recommendation.
Yep, thank you, CEO. Thanks, Mr Chair. So essentially, it is an amendment to the officer's recommendation that was written in conjunction with the Director Planning, who I met with yesterday to discuss my views and concerns around essentially introducing blanket triplexes to all low-density residential as a code accessible application. So it gives effect to essentially assuaging that concern. And I did circulate to councillors. I don't know if we can have it up on the screen, but I did. There we go. So the highlight in red there is the amendment to the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Cosgrove. Is there a seconder? Councillor Wheeler? Councillor Cosgrove, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I will briefly, Mr Chair, just to say firstly thank you to councillors and staff for all their patience firstly on having this as a special meeting, but I think it is obviously an important thing to get right, noting that this is only one step in a very long process. Thank you to the staff for all their hard work. And I will speak briefly to, once again, that change that I've suggested there by way of alternate motion. I personally don't feel that we should be moving to triplexes in all cases in low density residential. I think there would be cases where in some parts of what's currently designated low density residential you could make a case for it and make it work. But to say, all of Tanana, all of Bramble, all of Point Vernon, all of Coonga, all of Urangan, just blanket, now we can have triplexes as code accessible where we can only have duplexes. The fact is anyone can apply for a triplex, but it would be an impact accessible application to build in any of those suburbs. There was the suggestion in all the work that's been done and all the consultation that's been had with councillors that, the state's going to make us do this anyway. Well, I say let them do that. This is a Fraser Coast planning scheme and we need to make sure that it's specific to the needs of the Fraser Coast and the expectations that people have when they buy into established suburbs. I think as we do the local area planning that we've just signed off on for the Nickenbar and Dundown growth areas, you can plan for stuff like this much better from the get-go. But if you whack in density where there's no footpaths, where there should have been footpaths in the first place, in my opinion, that the services aren't quite there, you really just end up with poorly designed suburbs that aren't fit for purpose. To retrofit some of this stuff isn't simple. So that's why I've made that change. Otherwise, fantastic bit of work, huge bit of work, well done to the staff, and that's why moving that slight amendment as well as the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Cosgrove. Are there any speakers against the motion?
Could I ask the Director a question, please?
Question? Yeah, Councillor Chapman.
Director, we're talking with this here now, with this having triplexes in the town planning scheme, this does go back, this is a draft law we're approving, so this will go out to public consultation and then we get the feeling of what the public really would have to say, is that correct?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, as Chair, and thank you, Councillor Chapman. Yes, so, it can kind of happen either way, but I appreciate the intent of the amendment. Essentially, the officer's recommendation as written would be, we're proposing triplexes, and then we could get feedback and try and take them out afterwards, whereas the alternative way flips that around and we're saying you can still do single dwellings or duplexes, and that will be accepted development. And if we get feedback either through the state interest check from the state or from residents that is compelling and council wants to do it, you could put them back in at a later time. I should also just clarify that the scheme as it was written before this change had single dwellings and duplexes as accepted development and triplexes as code accessible development. As we know, there's nothing really to stop people putting in applications for anything that can be considered. So I think it works just as well either way. But I think this makes it clear that we don't think you should just be able to do them without some detailed assessment.
Thank you. So, so if there was triplexes going into residential areas, there would still be conditions the same as duplexes?
Yes, there would, and there would still, under amendment, there would still be a development application. So the accepted development pathway for a dwelling house or a duplex, and a code accessible outcome is what was proposed for a triplex. What this is seeking to do, as I understand it, the words in the councillor's mouth, is to just remove that triplex from it at this stage, noting that this is the first of a multiple stage process where we'll go for the state for review, we'll then go to the community for review. As Councillor Cosgrove has mentioned, we're also soon about to commence the growth area planning for the Nicobar growth area and the Dundowrin growth area, and we may well come up with different provisions for those areas. I expect that we will definitely come up with different provisions and probably a lot more dense provisions for those new growth areas.
Thank you. So has this council actually set up a housing diversity group to look at housing diversity?
Yes, that's correct.
Is there a problem that we've got with housing diversity in this area?
Through you again, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Chapman. My personal view is we have a problem because we have very little diversity. So I think we're up to about 97% of our housing stock is traditional type housing stock, either in individual houses or in over 50s type villages which mimic a traditional housing market. So yeah, we are getting very little diversity. We're getting very, very little unit development, despite the fact that it is allowed in many, many areas across the Fraser coast. And this, scheme separate from this amendment here, this scheme creates the new low-medium density, which will provide lots more opportunity for not just triplexes, but a whole range of diverse forms of dense development.
So this council is not actually inventing anything new that other councils across Queensland have brought up. This is being used in other areas.
Yeah, through you again, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Chapman. That's correct. Most of the ideas and the changes that are in this work that we've been working on for the last couple of years are not new. But what I would say is they're a Fraser Coast version of some of these concepts. So things like missing middle, right across Queensland, we struggle with how do we actually get those forms of development that aren't really high buildings but aren't single houses on large blocks of land. That's an issue that everyone faces. This work though is our version of how we think it can work on the Fraser Coast and what we think is appropriate for our community. So it's not going as far as some other places in terms of densification that you might see on the Sunshine Coast or the Gold Coast, but we believe it's a balanced piece of work that will hopefully move us towards more dense offerings, more opportunities for people to enter the housing market, and ideally some diverse value bases so that people's only choice to get into the housing market isn't a $750,000 new house and land package as a starter home. That this will provide units at 200 and 300 and 400,000 and a whole range of different opportunities for people who need them.
Thank you, Director. Through the Chair to the Chair, I'd like to foreshadow a motion that we go back to the Council resolution. The officer's recommendation, what was originally wrote, and I'd actually like to speak against this motion.
All right, well, there hasn't been any other, so you can speak against now if you'd like. Yeah.
Councillors, this is what we're approving here today is a draft of the town planning. We've actually got a council that says got his personal feelings. This is his personal feelings that we should take triplexes out of it, and we've got a housing diversity, which when you look across Queensland, across the Fraser Coast, if someone wants to build this sort of facility within their area, let's talk to let's let the community make their decision. And so here we are, we've got someone that wants to make a personal feeling when we actually got qualified planning staff that have spent hours on this project to bring this to council for us to approve, to then take it out to the public. So I really feel that let's feel what the public have to say about it. And I will be voting against this motion, and I hope other councils think about the same. Thank you.
Councillor Chapman. Councillor Whelan, you speaking for it?
Yeah, I'll be speaking for this motion. Firstly, thank you to the staff. That was just the first amendment was quite a bit of work. Really appreciate what you've done there. It's an exceptional piece of work. I'll be speaking for this. Low density I have a lot of low density in my division. We're regional councillors, so we look at it all. I struggle most weeks with the lack of services and things and the struggles we have with historic development that wasn't done to the standard that we develop today. So when I think about allowing 3 properties in the space in low density, of 1 now, I don't see it as one standout property. There could be 10 of these in a row. We have narrow streets in some of the low density areas. We have smaller blocks in some of the low density areas. It's quite a diverse subcategory of the planning scheme. We're doing a diversity of housing work group, and we've given a lot more opportunity for diversity of housing in this planning scheme. We've intensified the zoning in many areas where we'd like to see growth. So there is ample opportunity for that. And that is a goal that we, I think, as a collective would like to achieve, to give the cost of living relief in the housing market. I don't think targeting intensification in some low density areas is a good thing. I would like to see it come to council if it was to be done. We had an example in Borough Heads where several were put next to each other. And I'd just like to keep a little bit of control on that in the low density areas. And I do hope that we do achieve diversity and we do get more options for affordable housing, but I think that this motion's good, this amendment's good, and I'll be supporting it today.
Thank you, Councillor Whelan. Are there any speakers against the motion? Are there any other speakers for the motion? Councillor O'Keefe.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I'll be speaking for the alternate motion for a number of reasons, but just to be brief, I think that a fair assumption can be made when you are moving to or living in a low-density area, that there is a particular character to that community, and I think that what this alternate motion is doing is not prohibiting triplexes, but it's acknowledging that if triplexes are going to be a thing in the future, that it needs to be carefully managed, and if we want density, we need the upgrades to be able to accommodate for that density. If the state government want to mandate triplexes in low density areas, then they're going to have to fund the density upgrades to be able to accommodate that kind of population. So ultimately, that's why I'm supporting this motion.
Thank you, Councillor O'Keefe. Are there any other speakers against the motion?
Point of clarification there, Director. If the state government say that they're going to approve this if it goes back to the state, they won't be made to upgrade the infrastructure, will they?
Through you, Mr Deputy Mayor, as Chairman, thank you, Councillor Chapman. We don't have any powers to compel them. There's nothing to stop us asking for contributions. So.
Any other speakers? No, so if there's no other speakers on the matter, Councillor Cosgrove, as the mover, as there has been a speaker against you, would you like to reply if you'd like?
Yeah, thanks, Mr Chair. Ultimately, this is about where councillors feel the right starting point is for taking this to the state interest test. And look, as I said, my personal feeling is that I don't think there's a real appetite amongst the community to, you know, have triplexes built next door to their house in suburbia. I can see a way forward where we can have that type of that mode of housing retrofitted into some of these low density residential, but maybe that's where we do a bit more work in carving out particular sections of low density residential and putting them in the new category which has been introduced, which is the low medium density residential, which I think is a great introduction. I think that could be an opportunity where we could see triplexes being a code accessible application down the road. We also have density increases in the medium density zone with height increases. So this planning scheme that we're putting forward to go into the next steps, this first tranche of changes, is focused on increasing density. But you also need to realise that we need to make sure that community expectation is taken into place. And if we put forward something as a starting point, then we're essentially saying that is a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing. And I'd ask colleagues to consider whether, as a blanket over all low density residential, whether that's in Tanana, Granville, Bell Hilltop, Arroween, Point Vernon or elsewhere, that we should just blanket say that that triplexes are a code accessible application. Because to be frank, the Planning Act and the planners who, you know, engage with the Planning Act can find a way to make things work. So, you know, I think it's you know, our planners do a great job with a very poor piece of legislation that is not in favour of protecting the community. So, you know, they can find a way and, you know, drop a setback here and a requirement there, and all of a sudden, you know, code accessible is not enough. It has to be impact accessible, you know, if you're putting a triplex in as a blanket for low density residential. Otherwise, can we also just draw focus back to the fact that the rest of the motion as written is the officer's recommendation. This is a very large amount of work that's been done by the staff. I once again commend them. You know, we're getting caught up on this little red flag that I was actually the red flag that made me defer to this meeting as a special meeting to go, well, what else have I missed? And to be frank, everything else pretty good. So yeah, this is about where we think the starting point should be. If the state wants to come back to us and dictate, they will do that. I think the starting point should not be triplexes as code accessible applications in low density residential across the board.
Thank you, Councillor Cosgrove. So I'll put the matter to the vote. The motion is moved by Councillor Cosgrove and seconded by Councillor Whelan. All those in favour? And those against? So that's carried 8-1.
Mr Chair, before you move on, the newly adopted standing orders or orders of council require me to record a statement of reasons for why where the council passes a motion that's inconsistent with the officer's recommendation under section 21.10. So I've summarised the statement of reason as follows. Council believes that not all areas of established low density residential suburbs are suitable for large-scale intensification in the form of triplex developments due to the potential impacts on livability of those established areas. And I've checked that with the mover of the motion. He's comfortable with that reason.
Yep.
So that's the reason I'll be recording in the minutes.
Record that in the minutes. Do we need to move that in? Okay. All right, so that being the only order of business, there being no further business to discuss, I close the meeting at 9:21 a.m.
We'll just confirm that, like,